bring in Congressman Mark Green of Tennessee. Mr. Green represents Tennessee's 7th District, serves on the House Armed Services Committee, House Foreign Affairs Committee, the Select Committee on the Coronavirus, and a few others. Congressman Green, thank you, sir, and welcome to Victory News.
Thanks for having me on. Really an honor to be with you guys.
Okay, what's happening at the border? We were there when it first started happening a couple of weeks ago, maybe more than that now, I don't fully remember. And we noticed a whole busload of people coming in from Haiti. I can't remember where Haiti is connected as a land bridge through Mexico, but there are a lot of different people that we don't know who are coming in. This lands at the administration's feet, doesn't it?
Oh, absolutely. You think about the historic agreements that President Trump negotiated both with Mexico and, Honduras, Nicaragua, and Guatemala, or Honduras, El Salvador, and Guatemala. Those agreements created barriers on the pull side of migration. Migration, you think of the push factors in the country where they're leaving, the path that people have to cross, and then the pull factors. And so he had created barriers that basically disincentivized people from coming over. Well, those were immediately done away with by executive order by President Biden on day one. And then the House rammed through the House an amnesty bill. Now, it's very unlikely that it'll pass in the Senate, but just having that out there, the people are just pouring across the southern border. Not only is it, migrants who are putting themselves at risk, it's children that are being basically, seized by criminals and used as a free ticket to get into the United States. It's horrific what's going on, and it is absolutely President Biden's fault.
Yeah, I want to show you a picture here in just a moment. We were speaking to some of the sheriffs along the border. There's a picture of a man with one of the scary assault rifles. This isn't one of our guys. This is one of the cartel members who's coming into America armed. That's not a secure border. That's not a safe place for ranchers along that southern border, is it, sir?
No, it's not safe. It's not safe for Americans. It's not safe for those border individuals. It's not safe when those traffickers get into our country and then spread wherever they want to go. It's not safe. It's especially not safe for the women and children who are basically making that trek from Central America. The Doctors Without Borders has suggested that as high as 32% of the women are sexually assaulted in that trek. And the Biden policies are encouraging more of those, folks to move from their country along that path in Mexico to the United States. And it is a horrific tragedy. Again, Joe Biden's fault.
Right. Now, you serve on the COVID committee there. We're getting reports that these cities are having to COVID test because the government's not doing it. And the testing rates are much higher than the U.S. population here in America.
Sure. You think of the facilities that we have, the processing centers that we have at our border. They're a pipeline, and they have a capacity of flow through that pipeline. And when you exceed the capacity in order to get people through, they start dropping some of the routine things that they do, particularly COVID screening. And now we have our border folks, our border patrol agents, who many of them aren't vaccinated. They're there handling folks who are clearly have a higher incidence of COVID infection. They're at risk. Our nation is at risk. And this is a tragedy.
It is a tragedy, sir, and it's so true. And thank you for bringing that. You're sitting today with a secure fence and border around you there at Fort Pelosi. Sir, let me go over a few of the things that we know from Colorado's gun laws, which are stricter. They have universal background checks. They have a 15-round magazine limit. They have the red flag protection law, which this should have caught this young man. They've closed the loophole for gun shows. They have mental adjudication prohibiting firearm ownership. They have, if you have a restraining order, you cannot have a firearm. And Boulder County has an assault weapon ban and a 10-round magazine clip. With all of these laws that Colorado already has, this tragedy still happened.
Yeah, what the Democrats don't seem to realize is that the law-abiding citizens who want to and have a God-given right to own a gun are protected and in these scenarios, and the bad guys are going to get a gun no matter what law you pass. This really goes back to where they view rights coming from. We view our rights coming from God. They view all of our rights coming from government. And so they feel like they can constrain these rights. They just passed a bill that ripped away some religious freedom. So even religious freedoms, according to the Democrats, come from them and not from God. And that sort of fundamental difference in our value system and our worldview makes us incompatible on this issue. I believe that a person, just like Tim said, the only person that stops a bad guy with a gun is a good guy with a gun. And these laws do not keep bad guys from getting guns.
That's true. That's such a good point. Thank you, Congressman. All this saber rattling, we've got bombs in Syria, we have China, all the different things, an open border. I mean, there's no angry tweets for the positive side, I guess, on this. But why all of a sudden the saber rattling from these nations?
Well, you would expect that they would test the Biden administration. I mean, Kim Jong-un did that initially with Trump, and Trump responded, and the guy, quit missile launches, tests. They quit nuclear tests. Actually met with President Trump. I'm a little surprised that he refused to meet with Biden. I guess I shouldn't say that I'm surprised, but he's just testing the administration at this point, and I see that clearly what he's doing. It'll be interesting to see how the Biden administration responds.
Let's talk a little bit about something that a lot of people may not know a whole lot about, and that's House Resolution 1, the number one thing that they wanted to get done. And to me, that seems to be one of the most frightening things for our constitutional liberty that I've ever heard. Can you explain it?
Yeah, sure. What they're essentially doing is all of their crazy ideas on election law, they want to concentrate power and execute all of that in Washington, D.C. And if you read through the bill, it's obvious that the intent of that bill is to empower the Democrat Party forever. One of the most egregious things for me, though, is it takes taxpayer dollars and puts them in the campaigns of every candidate. So if you're running for office, you get money from the taxpayer, even if you don't support that particular candidate. That is a terrible idea. And interestingly enough, the way the law is written right now, a candidate could pay themselves from their campaign account. So essentially, it's an end around. These congressmen are basically voting themselves a pay raise, I guess, through their campaign accounts. But, voter ID, they're doing away with voter ID. They're doing away with purging the voter rolls. They're basically mass mail-outs on demand, no reason, all of that stuff that's very concerning to us. 16-year-olds can vote. And we all know that with them running much of the education system in this country, that's going to empower Democrats. So that's H.R. 1. It is a massive end around to federalism, and it takes that away from the states, which is where the Constitution says it should be.
So my taxpayer money could go to AOC or anyone else, and I don't have any say-so. What? Congressman Green, there are a lot of people who believe that the Supreme Court can't be trusted to take up these kind of matters.
Well, there's a lot of concern about that. We've watched a few votes that were disappointing over the past few years from the Supreme Court, even after we thought we had some pretty conservative justices replacing Scalia, et cetera. But I believe that they will make a good decision on this particular issue. It's so black and white.
All right, Congressman Green from Tennessee, thank you so very much for being with us today and taking the time to explain these things. We are praying for you. You're on the tip of the spear there, and let you know that a lot of people are supporting you. Thank you, sir.